Who is affected by and should be involved in effective communication? Well, since we're talking about the effective classroom, teachers and students, obviously, need to be involved in effective communication with one another. Clear instruction on the teacher's part in verbal and written forms, as well as through examples, will help in the communication process. More encouragement and positive/constructive criticism rather than negative correction will be helpful in effective communication. Constructive criticism is better than just negatively correcting everything, because then the student can see, well, the teacher isn't really trying to tear me down or put me down. They're just trying to help me do better, instead of just acting like, no, that was wrong. Instead of just turning it around into something that positive that they can learn from, and encouraging them to do better. Open to questions and answers, open to seeing the view of more than one side in an issue. That's a big part of effective communication. In any relationship, if you are only speaking and hearing one side, you are not effectively communicating. It will cause problems if you will refuse to see anything but your own opinion. That doesn't necessarily mean teachers or students have to change their opinion. Sometimes there's more than one right way to think, but it doesn't mean you have to argue about it. Now, being open to questions and answers, that's along the line of, if a student has a question about, well, why do we need to do this? Or, well, how is this important to me? The teacher will be willing to answer, this is why you need to do this. This is why this is relevant to you. Or questions about the material itself. Or maybe the student doesn't agree with what's being taught. Or maybe the student disagrees with what's in the text as the representation of the lesson, such as in a history lesson. I don't agree with the writer's viewpoint on so-and-so. I think so-and-so was like this. And the teacher, instead of saying, well, that's what the text says, you need to learn that, or, well, that opinion isn't correct, should be open to seeing that as an opportunity as, well, if that's what you think, can you, kind of make a way to represent that to me? How about you look into that some more and tell me what you find out, type of a thing. And that will either kind of put the argumentative perspective away, or it will encourage the student to go and seek that information and give that to the teacher and add more of a perspective, because a lot of, such as in historical accounts, there are many perspectives. And that might help the student to kind of see, well, there is more than one view. And for the teacher to be open to see more than one view on an issue in the classroom would be such as trying to understand what motivated the student's behavior to do perhaps something that was unacceptable, or something that they didn't necessarily know was unacceptable, and seeing that, or trying to sort out problems between two students. Say if the teacher got approached by a group of students, and one student will say, well, such and such happened, and the other student will say, well, such and such happened. And if the teacher is able to see both sides and able to kind of direct the students to find a solution to that, understanding both sides, and helping the students to see both sides. Open conveyance of present and future plans and expectations, encouraging the students' expression of opinion and input on these plans. In this, I'm thinking of teachers asking for student input, such as in the design of future lessons. Not so much that the students are controlling the lesson planning, but that the teachers could adapt it to fit some things that they might be interested in. Just kind of like maybe doing a simple survey near the beginning of, the unit, such as if the teacher introduces what the subject is and asks the students, what would you be interested in learning about such and such? Or if you were going to study such and such, what would you focus on, or how would you go about it? What activities would you engage in? And getting the students' input on that, or just giving them kind of a heads up on, we're going to be studying chemical reactions, and telling the students a preview of what some of the activities are going to be, and getting some feedback on that could help too. As much as possible, encouraging in the realm of communication for there to be less dependency on the teacher's direction and more emphasis on self-motivation, thinking, and problem solving. Communication is important between teachers and students, but especially as students get older, the teachers should work to help the students be able to work with one another more and kind of be more of a facilitator than directly dictating each activity and having to give them instruction for everything, to make the communication more of a starting point, and then they could come back to the teacher if they need help. The teacher would be able to direct them, well, what do you think you should do next? And if they really do need help, then the teacher could give input, but the teacher should try as much as he or she can to try to get them to figure it out for themselves, to be able to solve their problems, to be able to think, which you wouldn't think would be a big issue, but if students are used to being micromanaged, I don't think that they will be effectively self-motivated or thinking or problem solving, because they'll just go to somebody they think has the solution and it'll be easier. And I'm not saying the teacher should totally take their hands off either. I mean, obviously in younger grades, the teacher is going to have more input and more communicating with the students. But working with the students rather than just telling them everything that they should do, helping them as they go along would be more effective, because it's more real to life. Because when those students get jobs or have careers later, they're not going to go to their manager every 5 minutes and ask, well, what do I need to do now? And that was one point that was brought out in one of the books about classroom discipline that was in the materials. One of the plans kind of reiterated that, students need to foster more responsibility and independence. And the teacher's communication can help out with that, help get them directed in the right direction for that. And the next 3 points are related. They are: the teachers and parents need to communicate. Teachers and other teaching colleagues and other faculty members need to communicate. Teachers, how they need to communicate with the community in general. In all 3 of these, forms of communication could include through written letters, through meetings and conferences, through emails and other computer communications, and through phone calls. Are means that teachers can employ to communicate with parents, other teachers and faculty members in the community. When communicating with them, the teacher's goal should be to share their plans, or to have plans shared with them, to report on the progress in their class, to collaborate in striving for success, and to encourage the other parties' involvement in their class's success. So, say if it were to encourage the other parties' involvement, to encourage the parents to get involved, to encourage their colleagues to get involved, and to encourage the community to get involved. The collaboration, striving for success, having community come in and input things on the class, such as if there's like a community project that the class is doing, or having parents come in and help with lessons on different things, collaborating with other teachers and seeing what they did for that subject or helping them with when they're teaching, reporting on the progress and sharing plans kind of keeps parents and other teachers in the know of where you're at and where you're going, and just being able to be clear and communicating will reduce a lot of problems that could arise without that communication.